Hello and welcome. My name is Adam Mortimer, and today it's all about Kickstarter. This is how you can develop a product with little to no money out of pocket. So I'm going to give you all the tools, tips, tricks, and secrets coming up. So let's dive right into this. So first of all, maybe you don't even have an idea of, hey, well, what product should I create? You know, when I started my Kickstarter journey, I had no idea what to do. So what I did is I went on Kickstarter and I found what was already selling. So how do you minimize the risk? Why not just go out there and find a product that already works? So once you find a product and you see that it's selling in the marketplace, the next question is, well, how do I make it better? All right, so you want to come up with a prototype. This could be a drawing. I think often people make this way too complicated. Mine was actually a pen, and I had some features on it where you can fidget with it, right? So I actually got a pen, and I went to the local store and I bought some Play-Doh. And I built out little switches and little spinny things here, and it was all done with a Play-Doh and pen, just to give my designers, my engineers, a visual for what it is I was looking to create. Okay, so that's very important. Whether you hire an artist or you draw one or you get some Play-Doh and a pen and you create your first really rough prototype, that's fine. Well, what's the next step? Well, the next step is to create what's called a Cad drawing. And a Cad drawing is basically a three-dimensional drawing that an engineer will create. Now, you want to make sure when you do your Cad drawing that it's going to be ready for manufacturing, okay? Because not all people that know how to draw Cad drawings know how to make it ready for manufacturing. And there's a lot of little moving parts. So just make sure that whatever engineer you work with knows how to make it ready for the manufacturing step. So how do you know that? Well, you're going to ask them. You're going to see their resume. And I actually hire people on Upwork.com. That's one of the best websites out there for entrepreneurs. Also Fiverr.com. You might say to yourself, well, Adam, I don't even have a logo. I don't have a brand. I don't have this. What do I do? You could actually hop on Fiverr, and by this afternoon, you could have a logo designed for you and created within for $5. Okay. And some of them are a little bit more. I think at the end of the day, because I bought the pro package, it was like $25 to $50 for my logo, but not too bad for that. The CAD drawing did take a little bit more time, and the engineer, so that part was probably the most expensive part in the whole process. That part was about $1,200. Okay, so it took him a couple of weeks to design it. But well worth it, because once the CAD drawing's done, then I can get an actual three-dimensional prototype ready. And so how do you do that? You actually want to get it 3D printed. And there's a lot of different companies. You can simply Google this, 3D printing companies, find a great price. I think it was a few $100 to get my pens 3D printed. But this gave me a really great proof of concept. Now, was it fully functioning? Not exactly. It was pretty darn close to fully functioning. I would recommend getting your prototype fully functioning. All right, why? Because you never know what's going to happen. In fact, my product ended up getting invited to be on season number 9 of Shark Tank. We were the last company to get cut. I'm actually really grateful that I was cut, to be honest. And you might say, well, wait a minute, you had an opportunity to be on Shark Tank. Well, the prototype wasn't exactly where we wanted it to be. All right, it would have been an embarrassment. I didn't want to go there yet. So that's something to keep in mind, that you might be invited to be on Shark Tank. You could be invited to be on shows. So make sure your prototype is 100% ready to go before you start your Kickstarter campaign. Okay, it's fully functional. You have the proof of concept. You've worked out the bugs. You've talked to the manufacturers. You make sure they know how to. You know, it just a little bit of extra time and effort put into that will go a long, long way in the long term, okay? All right, so logos, graphics, we talked about that. All right, so how do we bring down our costs? One of the ways, you are gonna need to hire a few people, assemble a team. All right, but Adam, I don't have time, money to pay $5,000 to have someone create a video for me. Or I don't have money for somebody to spend all this time building out my social medias. I don't have time to help somebody with all the graphic design and websites, and I don't have the money to do all that, nor do I have all the know-how to go about doing that. Well, here's a solution that I did, and maybe it'll work for you as well. Instead of paying people up front, you can offer them a bit of equity in the Kickstarter campaign. Now notice, I said Kickstarter campaign and not equity in the overall business. Okay, so you can find people that will work day and night for you to help you launch a successful campaign, because 5% of $1 million, they have a potential of making $50,000 compared to $5,000 if you were to pay them up front. Okay, so I highly recommend, if you're just getting started and you don't want to put a lot of money into this, you could offer people equity in your company. So average equity that I offer, anywhere from 1% to 5%. Maybe 5% to your video guy, 5% to your social media, and 5% to your marketer. All right, so, and make sure that your marketer, make sure all of these people have a background. They have had a proven track record of success before you invite them on the team. Have they set up email campaigns? How much money have they made in the past? When I went out and found my social media guy, I went out and looked at his account, and he had over 30,000 followers, and it was growing very rapidly. Well, that tells me that that person has some good experience there. And then the video people are pretty easy, because you can watch some of the videos they've created in the past and see if you like it or you don't like it. All right, speaking of video, how do you create an engaging Kickstarter video that's going to get eyeballs, get people engaged? One of my favorite ways is to use humor. So you can create something funny, pattern it after something that already works. I think of the Squatty Potty. The unicorn, you've probably seen the video of the unicorn pooping, right? But that sold millions upon millions of dollars. Or you think of the Snuggie, or you think of Dollar Shave Club. That started with just a funny video. That business grew to be a $1 billion organization. So I didn't reinvent the wheel. I went out and created a video similar to Dollar Shave Club. I knew it worked. I knew that type of humor worked on the internet. I knew the product worked on the internet. So I was really minimizing a lot of my risk before I decided to start putting money, time, and effort into this. Does that make sense? So those are some quick tips. Some other things. You definitely want to create a website, okay? Because once your campaign is done, Kickstarter will have a link, a button, a buy now button, that will link over to your website. And Kickstarter can continue to generate a lot of traffic for you. So definitely make sure you have a website, so after your campaign's launched, Kickstarter can continue to send business your way. Now, the nice thing about Shopify websites, Shopify.com is where I build my websites. There's tons of plugins, there's tons of marketing tools, there's email campaigns. Hands down, I believe it's the best out there today as of this recording. This is 2021. I love it. All the websites I ever built have been built on Shopify, and will continue to be built on Shopify as long as it continues to be very competitive in the marketplace. Nice thing about Shopify, it has your merchant account, your ability to take and receive credit cards. There's a million YouTube videos on how to set things up. If you don't know how to change a picture or add a product, you can literally YouTube it, right? And you can find so much content out there on how to do it. All right. So let's say we've got our CAD drawing, we've got our prototype, we've got our video, we're ready to start marketing, and we're getting funding, right? Well, before we do all of that, we kind of need to know how much all this is going to cost, right? We need to know, once we receive the funding from Kickstarter, and they take anywhere from, I believe it's about 8 to 10%. So you have to calculate that. So if you get 100 grand, you're not getting the full amount, right? You're going to get 90 grand. And then you've got to think, how much of that is going to go to your manufacturing costs? So when you do the CAD drawing, you send it over to your manufacturer, and your manufacturer is going to create basically what's called injection molding. It's a block of metal that they can carve out to the design of whatever product you're designing, and they inject plastic in it, molten plastic. And basically it's a mold, right? You got to create a mold. That's probably the most expensive part. Not probably. It is the most expensive part. I know for my pen, it had about 50 small pieces that went into it. And that was about $15,000 to $20,000. So you need to get that quote before you get on Kickstarter. You need to know how much that's going to cost, cover the cost of, your CAD drawings, your, all of those things. You want to be able to at least break even when you receive the funding, right? So when I receive all the funding from my Kickstarter, I'm going to set, so if I know my CAD drawings, $15,000, and my injection molding is $20,000, and then I need to buy at least, let's say, 1,000 pens to bring my pen cost down to $3 a pen. So that's $3,000 right there. So based on that, I have the bottom line, my break-even point, that here's the minimum I need to ask from my Kickstarter crowd in order to not have to take money out of my pocket or to lose money on the project. Does that make sense? So some of the things that you want to take into account when you're setting that target. You don't want to set the target too high, because if you don't hit the target, the way it works on Kickstarter is you don't receive the funding. You only receive funding if you reach your target. Now, once your Kickstarter page is set up, and for those of you that have been living under a rock and you don't know what Kickstarter is or how that works, basically this is what it is. You create a prototype, you create a video, and you give people an opportunity to pre-purchase your product. And what Kickstarter does, it will give you the funding. You can set a benchmark on how much money you need to complete the product or the project, and Kickstarter will fund, once you reach a certain level, Kickstarter will give you that money, okay, from the crowd. It's crowdfunding, basically, is what it is. So you market to a bunch of people, they think it's a good idea or bad idea, they give you money for it. What I love about Kickstarter is it's a beautiful proof of concept. You already know it's going to work. You have a market for it. You have people that have already bought. So it's a really, really great way to minimize your risk. All right, so that's a quick overview on that. Shopify is the website I go to set up the websites. Now, once you're ready to sell, Shopify also has Shopify Exchange. So these are places where you can go to post your actual website and you can sell it, which is something that I did as well. I'll have to save that for another video, but that's another great way to make money from your business, is to build it up and then turn around and sell it to someone else. If you're like me, I like the creative process. I like building things out. I like thinking of the marketing campaigns, coming up with all those pieces. That's my ADD mind likes to do all that, but I don't like the day-to-day, right? I don't like the shipping. I don't like the manufacturing. By the way, you might be thinking, well, Adam, once all these products, let's say I go out there and I sell 2,000 products, I mean, am I gonna have to package and ship 2,000 products to my customers? It's a great question. The answer to that is no. One of the things you want to take into account when you're figuring out the pricing for your product is how much is it going to take to pick and ship your actual item. So for me, by adding an extra $1 or $2, I was able to outsource all of my shipping to what's called a fulfillment company. All right, so they can do all the shipping with you. Now, there is a software program that makes shipping very easily. It's called ShipStation. So that's a product that can plug into your Shopify that your fulfillment center can see. So basically what happens is when you receive an order, your fulfillment center can see that you received an order, and they can go out and pick the order, package it, and do everything for you. Your biggest job is to make sure that the shipping station has inventory. So that's probably the biggest thing you need to stay on top of. But other than that, if you set it up properly, it really can run itself quite nicely. All right, let's see. I want to make sure I've covered everything with you. Manufacturing, product costs, marketing, let's see. Pattern after something that works. Oh, here's the biggest thing. Don't be afraid to fail, okay? Worst case scenario, let's say you get out there with your Kickstarter and it doesn't work, right? Nobody buys it. Okay, well, you're not out any money. That's the beautiful thing. Okay, let's say it does work and you make some mistakes along the way. You know what? They're just learning experiences. You know, the greatest teacher is going to be failure. You're going to make some mistakes. I made mistakes on my first Kickstarter, one of which is I wish my prototype would have been further along the road before I did the full-blown launch, okay? So just some things to really be aware of when starting your Kickstarter business. And I think the biggest thing is go out there and do it. Create something. Take the risk. Why not? YOLO, right? You only live once. Try it. Try it out and learn from it if you make mistakes, and do better on the second time around, and just keep going until you go out there and make your millions and retire happy and live happily ever after. Anyway, I hope this gives you a quick overview of what's possible and the process that you can go through to create an actual Kickstarter campaign. So go out there and give it a try. If you don't know how to do any of this, hire a coach. Hire somebody that has done this before, that can train you and walk you through the steps on how to launch a product. I think that's a really wise thing to do, because an expert can help you avoid a lot of the pitfalls, a lot of the trial and error. There's a lot of classes out there that you can watch on this. But start somewhere, and definitely, if you can, the money you spend on somebody coaching you through this will be money well spent, because it'll help you avoid a lot of those mistakes that rookie Kickstarters are bound to make. All right, so with that, thanks so much for joining us here today. Until next time, bye-bye.
Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you found value and you would like to hear more of what these coaches are saying each and every week, please subscribe to our channel so that you can continue to get these episodes. We hope you have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon.